It's 1975, somewhere in America. Every weekday morning, millions of children walked into a school that looked, sounded, and smelled completely different from the schools of today. There were no laptops on desks, no digital whiteboards, no internet. Instead, there were metal lunchboxes, chalkboards, film strip projectors, wooden card catalogs, and purple worksheets with a smell you never forgot. None of these things felt nostalgic then. They were just school. Here are 11 things that might bring back a school day you haven't thought about in 50 years. The metal lunchbox. You carried it by the handle. On the side was whatever mattered to kids that year: Evel Knievel, the $6 Million Man, Charlie's Angels, the Partridge Family. The lunchbox could almost tell other kids something about you before you ever opened it. Inside was a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, an apple, maybe a cookie, and the matching thermos clipped inside the lid. The plastic cap of the thermos doubled as a drinking cup. And that thermos had a glass liner. Drop it once and you might hear the broken pieces rattling inside. By the end of the school year, the lunchbox was scratched and dented. The latch might not close quite as easily as it had in September, but it was unmistakably yours. And choosing a new one was once one of the best parts of going back to school. The film strip projector. The teacher wheeled it in on a cart, and everyone knew immediately this wasn't going to be a normal lesson. The lights went off. The room became quiet. The film strip advanced frame by frame, sometimes accompanied by recorded narration and a little beep telling the teacher when to move to the next image. The picture appeared on a pull-down screen or directly on the wall. Sometimes it was slightly out of focus until the teacher adjusted the lens. If the film jammed, the image froze. Sometimes it began to brown from the heat of the bulb. Somebody laughed. The teacher usually didn't. Eventually, VHS replaced film strips, but nothing quite replaced that feeling of sitting in a dark classroom in the middle of the school day, watching a glowing image on the wall. The brown paper textbook cover. At the beginning of the school year, textbooks came home and had to be protected. So you took a brown paper grocery bag, cut it open, and folded it around the book. Then you wrote your name on it. Soon came the doodles, a favorite band, a football team, maybe the name of someone you liked. And if you got bored during class, there was always another empty corner of that cover waiting for something to be drawn on it. By spring, that brown paper cover had become a record of your entire school year. It started as a grocery bag. It ended as something completely yours. The television on a rolling cart. You could sometimes hear the wheels before it came through the classroom door. Then you saw it. A television sitting high on a metal cart. And immediately, the mood changed. Maybe it was an educational program. Maybe a special broadcast. It didn't really matter. The blinds closed, desks shifted, kids leaned sideways trying to see around the person in front of them. Sometimes several classes were brought together to watch the same program. The screen wasn't large. The picture wasn't perfect. If you were sitting in the wrong place, somebody's head blocked part of it. Nobody cared. For the next half hour, nobody was looking at the chalkboard. Because when that television rolled through the door, an ordinary school day had just gotten better. The wall-mounted pencil sharpener. It was bolted somewhere to the classroom wall, and using it meant something important. You got to leave your desk. You put the pencil into the opening and turned the handle. Crank, crank, crank. The whole room could hear you. Turn too long and your pencil came out half its original size. Stop too early and the point broke, giving you a perfectly good reason to go back. Behind the blades was a little container slowly filling with pencil shavings. Eventually, somebody had to empty it. Some kids visited the pencil sharpener more often than their pencils required. The teacher knew. Everyone knew. It continued anyway. Tell me in the comments, which one of these do you remember most clearly? Not just the object, the moment around it, the classroom, the teacher, the kid sitting next to you, the chalkboard and the erasers. The chalkboard ran across the front of the room, green or black, with little pieces of chalk collecting in the tray. The teacher's hands often carried a faint layer of chalk dust. So did the erasers, and cleaning those erasers was an actual classroom job. You took them outside and clapped them together. A huge cloud of chalk dust exploded into the air. Sometimes you clapped them against the brick wall, leaving pale rectangles behind. Sometimes two kids stood outside hitting erasers together until they could barely see each other through the dust. For some reason, this was one of the better classroom jobs, probably because it meant leaving the classroom. The other good job was taking something to the school office. Anything that got you into the hallway during class had value. Today, chalkboards feel like something from an old photograph. In 1975, they were simply the front of the room. The three-ring binder covered in names and drawings. The binder itself wasn't interesting. The cover was. By October, it might be covered with band names, drawings, friends' names, phone numbers, and inside jokes. Maybe the name of someone you liked appeared more than once. Inside, the organization promised in September was usually beginning to collapse. Papers stuck out everywhere. Homework disappeared somewhere between subjects. One of the rings didn't quite close properly, and sooner or later, somebody pinched a finger in the mechanism. A few of those binders survived. Find one today, and you might spend an hour reading a year of your own life in handwriting you barely recognize. The overhead projector. It sat on the teacher's desk or on a cart. The teacher wrote on a clear transparency, and the words appeared enlarged on the wall. The lamp was bright. The projector was warm, and its fan hummed through the entire lesson. If you sat close enough, you could feel the heat. Sometimes the teacher placed a prepared transparency on the glass. Other times you watched the lesson appear one line at a time as the teacher wrote. Eventually, digital projectors replaced the transparencies, special markers, and glowing lamps. But for years, that hum was simply another sound of the classroom. The library card catalog, rows of little wooden drawers filled with cards. Every book had one. Title, author, subject, call number. To find a book, you opened a drawer, moved your fingers through the cards, found the right one, wrote down the number, and went looking. There was no search box, no screen telling you instantly where to go. You actually had to understand the system. It was slower than typing into a search bar, but while looking for one book, you often noticed 5 others. You wandered between shelves. You pulled out something because the title looked interesting. Sometimes you found something better than what you came for. Eventually, computers replaced those wooden drawers. Today, old card catalogs are sold as antiques. Once, they were simply how you found a book. The school milk carton. Small, waxy, white, and surprisingly difficult to open correctly. You pulled the top apart and pushed the sides until the little triangular spout appeared. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes you mangled the carton until it looked like it had lost a fight. White milk or chocolate milk. The chocolate was better and everybody knew it. Those little cartons sat beside cafeteria pizza, mashed potatoes, canned fruit, sandwiches, and whatever else appeared on the tray that day. The cafeteria itself had its own sounds. Trays sliding along the counter, silverware hitting tables, hundreds of kids talking at once. And somewhere in the middle of it all, somebody was struggling to open a milk carton. For millions of American kids, lunch didn't look complete without one. And number one, the Mimeograph worksheet. You may remember this one before you remember anything printed on it. The smell. The teacher walked in carrying a fresh stack of worksheets. The paper might still feel slightly damp and cool. The ink was purple, and there was that sharp, sweet chemical smell that somehow meant school. Kids sometimes lifted a fresh sheet toward their faces just to smell it. Nobody had to tell them to. They just did. Sometimes the printing was dark and clear. Sometimes it was faint. Sometimes the page looked like it had already been copied too many times. But the smell was unmistakable. If you went to an American school in the 1960s or 1970s, that smell may still be stored somewhere in your memory. Encounter it again, and suddenly you know where you are, how old you are, what the classroom looks like, maybe even who is sitting beside you. Eventually, photocopiers took over. The worksheets became black ink on clean white paper. Dry, almost odorless. Nobody announced that anything important had disappeared. Nobody thought it was important. It was just the smell of school, until it wasn't. 11 ordinary things. A metal lunchbox, a dark classroom and a glowing film strip, the sound of the pencil sharpener, chalk dust in the air, wooden card catalog drawers, and purple worksheets that somehow smelled exactly like school. None of them felt remarkable in 1975. That was precisely the point. They were simply the background of an ordinary school day, repeated so many times that you stopped noticing them. Until now. Tell me in the comments, which one brought something back? Not just the object, the room, the teacher, the person sitting next to you. We don't just remember the objects, we remember the life around them. Subscribe, because there is a lot more of this country left to remember.